All right, let's dive in. Today, we're setting out to climb what seems like a single philosophical mountain, but as we'll see, it has two very, very different peaks. This is an ancient riddle about the nature of reality itself, one that connects an 11th century Persian poet to the core teachings of Buddhism. Let's try and figure this out together.
So, let's start with the big puzzle, the question that gets this whole thing started. Have you ever really thought about this? One religion tells you to pray 5 times a day facing a certain direction. Another tells you to sit in total silence for hours. One path demands you go on a long pilgrimage, another that you give up everything. How can all of these contradictory instructions, these completely different paths, claim to lead to the exact same place?
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by really digging into that riddle of contradiction. Then, we'll look at a brilliant solution from a Persian philosopher named Naser Khosrow. After that, we'll see how Buddhism offers a map that looks almost identical until we realize the destinations might be polar opposites. We'll connect all this to Western philosophy and then wrap up by facing that big question. Are we climbing one mountain or two?
Okay, let's really break this down. At its heart, the problem is just how different all these religious practices are. You've got fasting, you've got feasting, you've got these incredibly complex rituals, and then you have a path of just stark, bare-bones simplicity. On the surface, things like praying or meditating or going on a pilgrimage seem like they have nothing in common. Yet, the people on each of these paths are often completely convinced their way leads to the one ultimate truth. How does that work? How is that not just a massive contradiction?
Well, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Let's just look at the world around us for a second. Nature is literally built on opposites. You've got fire and water, earth and air. A tree is defined by its stillness, a bird by its ability to fly. Now, these aren't bugs in the system. They are the system. All of this incredible, contradictory diversity somehow works together to create a single functioning reality. So, what if religion works the exact same way?
To explore that very idea, we're going to turn to our first guide. This is an 11th century Persian philosopher and poet, Naser Khosrow. He stared this exact problem right in the face and came up with this incredibly elegant solution. And it's all based on seeing reality in layers.
So Khosrow breaks down religion into these 4 parts. First, you've got the book, the holy text. Second is the Sharia. These are the laws, the rituals, the actual physical path that you walk. Third, you have ta'wil, which is the deeper, symbolic interpretation of those first 2. And all of it, every single part, is designed to get you to one place. Tawheed, or divine unity. That's the goal.
Now here's where it gets really clever. Khosrow splits these 4 things into 2 distinct layers of reality. He calls them Zahir, which means the apparent, the external, and Batin, the hidden, the internal. The Zahir is the Sharia. It's the prayers, the fasting, all the rules. It's the physical path with all its unique details. But the Batin is the goal of that path, Tawheed, divine unity. And here's the key insight. One is the vehicle to get to the other.
And he explains this with a perfect analogy. He says the rules and rituals of religion, the Zahir, are like firewood. The ultimate goal, that spiritual unity, is the fire. And here's the thing, you simply cannot get the fire without the wood. The wood itself isn't the point, right? But it is the absolutely essential fuel you need to produce the light and the heat. The outer practices are the kindling for the inner flame.
Okay, now hold that thought about firewood because we're about to jump across continents and centuries, all the way to Buddhism. And what's wild is that what we find isn't a contradiction to Khosrow's idea. It's an incredible echo, a system with a structure that is almost identical.
You see, in a lot of Buddhist thought, reality is explained using something called the 2 truths. First, there's relative truth. This is the normal, conventional world we all live in. The world of cause and effect, of doing good things, of ethics. That's the path. Then there's absolute truth. This is the ultimate direct insight into how reality really is. And that's the goal, the realization of nirvana. You see the parallel, right? It's the exact same structure, a path and a goal.
So what's the firewood in this system? Well, it's the Noble Eightfold Path. These are the concrete, practical, ethical steps you have to take. And just like Khosrow's Sharia, this isn't some abstract philosophy. It's a hands-on guide for how to speak, how to act, and how to think in the everyday world. This is the fuel for the fire.
Okay, so up to this point, it really seems like we're climbing one mountain, doesn't it? Both systems have an outer path, a set of practices that lead to some deeper inner realization. But this is where our journey takes a really fascinating twist.
because the structure of the climb might be the same, but the destinations, the actual peaks we're aiming for, they seem to be fundamentally completely different. Let's look at that first peak again. The goal on Naser Khosrow's path is Tawhid, and this is a profoundly positive or affirmative realization. It's the understanding that everything, you, me, the universe, is all just a manifestation of one single, unified, divine reality. The end point is about dissolving that illusion of being separate, so you can experience this incredible oneness with the divine. It's an ultimate fullness.
Okay, now let's look over at the second peak. The ultimate realization in Buddhism is called shunyata, or emptiness. Now this isn't a scary void. It's the deep insight that nothing, not you, not a tree, not a single atom, has a fixed, separate, independent self. This is the idea of anatta, or no self. So the end point here is not about merging with some ultimate being. It's about the complete dissolution of the very idea of a separate self to begin with. It's an ultimate emptying out.
Fullness versus emptiness. Wow. I mean, that's a huge difference. And it's really the core paradox we've been building towards. It's a lot to think about. And while you're mulling that over, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say, hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Your support really means a lot and helps me keep creating content for you all. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, with that said, let's zoom out a bit. Because this whole idea, the split between the world as it appears and some deeper, truer reality, this isn't just an Eastern idea, not by a long shot. This exact same quest has been a central obsession of Western philosophy for thousands of years.
Just take a look at this. You've got Plato, right? His famous allegory of the cave says our everyday world is just like watching shadows on a wall. And the true reality is this perfect world of forms we can only see with our minds. That's a perfect echo of Zahir and Bonton. Centuries later, you get Immanuel Kant, who makes a similar split between the phenomenal world, that's the world we experience with our senses, and the noumenal world, the thing in itself which we can never actually know directly. But then, you get this powerful critique from Friedrich Nietzsche. He basically says this whole idea of a true world is a dangerous illusion, invented by people to devalue this life, which is the only one we've got. For Nietzsche, dreaming about a hidden, better reality is just running away from this one.
So, where does all this leave us? Let's try to bring all these different threads together. We've gone from Persia to India and all the way to Europe, chasing this fundamental idea of the path versus the destination, appearance versus reality.
So here's a quick recap of our journey. We started with a shared problem, all these contradictory religions. We found these incredibly parallel paths, this idea of an outer practice leading to an inner truth. But then we hit these divergent peaks, unity on one side, emptiness on the other. And finally, we put it all into a global context.
Now, the most important point of agreement is this. Both of these systems say that the everyday world, the world of practice, actually matters. The outer world, the Zahir, the relative truth, it isn't just some illusion you're supposed to ignore. No, it's the necessary, essential, and meaningful path you have to walk to even get a glimpse of that hidden truth. It matters how you live, right here and right now.
And yet, that massive divergence is just as real. When you finally get that fire from the firewood, what is it you find? Do you discover Tawhid, an all-consuming oneness where everything becomes part of a greater one? Or do you realize Shunyata, a profound emptiness, where you see that everything was never a separate thing to begin with? Fullness versus emptiness, that's the riddle right there. And that brings us to our final massive question. Could it be that oneness and emptiness are just words? Are they just little containers our human minds have created to try and describe something that's totally beyond description? Is it possible that from the very top of this mountain, the view is exactly the same, but when the climbers come back down, they just don't have a common language to explain what they saw? One mountain or two? That's the riddle we're left with.